Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we spoil movies. In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day, long before we had a website, or listeners, or taste, or class. We called ourselves Movies We Like, which was, with the benefit of hindsight, A terrible name.
But before we send you through the window of time to gaze your earballs on movie podcast history, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel.
And if you decide to become a regular listener of this show and you're interested in supporting our ongoing work on our other series like The Film Board or The Speakeasy and Trailer Rewind, please consider a regular donation to us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/thenextreel.
All the contributors are invited to join us in our Slack channel, where we have tons of fun, and they are entered to win our regular contests, guest spots on this very show, all sorts of good stuff.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention. We hope you enjoy the show. I am. I shaved.
When you shave?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there comes a time when my children stop kissing me goodnight. And I had to shave. I had to shave the beard. And I had to lose the beard. I don't know. Is the beard a thing? It's dirty. If you look dirty, if you look like you 3 or 4 days, that's the beard right now, isn't it? You kind of have that.
No, I just have a stash.
You're doing Movember.
I am doing Movember. Yep.
Huh.
See,
of course, by the time this show, look at you.
Yep.
You look like an Italian dictator.
That's awesome. I'm going to talk about that at work tomorrow. We've all decided that our office is going to look like a 70s police station.
That's it.
By the end of the month, because everybody's growing mustaches right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's good stuff.
It is.
Can we, before we start talking about this movie, can we talk about some trailers?
Sure.
That have just come out, that I'm just seeing. First of all, I'm very excited to see Dwayne Johnson back on the big screen in Journey to the Mysterious Island. And I don't mean Journey TOO, I mean Journey Dose, the Mysterious Island.
As in a remake of the Mysterious Island?
Well, it seems like it's the sequel to the Journey to the Center of the Earth, I'm guessing.
Well,
the recent remake was not Dwayne Johnson. I don't know how that's working out. It's Journey 2. What is it? What was Journey 1?
Yeah, I'm looking at the page right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's really lame sounding.
I know. I'm actually saying that I'm being a little bit sarcastic. Although my kids are very much looking forward to that movie. So that was one. That was one that.
Well, I will say I have no idea if this one in any way relates to Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island
So it's as if the kid is related somehow, and they discover this book, and the book is actually some sort of trip document.
So it's more like a sequel to Inkheart, also featuring Brendan Fraser.
No, but this is not Brendan Fraser. This is Dwayne Johnson.
Know.
This is The Rock.
But Brendan Fraser was in Journey to the Center of the Earth.
No, but those two were unrelated. They were just related because they were related.
Yeah, but a book coming to life.
Yeah, but this isn't a book coming to life. This is as if the book were real, a real like diary. It's not like they're reading the book. They actually go to the trip to try and recreate to go to the Mysterious Island.
Is that how Journey to the Center of the Earth was?
Yeah,
the remake?
it was. I think it was similar. I don't actually remember. I think I blacked out during the actual, some of the plot. Yeah. So there was that. That one is a little adventure excitement coming. Let's see. I'm very excited. Also in the vein of being excited for movies. Mission Impossible 4.
I'm actually quite excited about that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Protocol. I'm very excited about that one. That looks terrific. I love it when it looks like they actually bring that back. It's just call it what it is. It's just going to be a lot of action.
Well, you know who's directing it.
Do I? Wait for it. Let me see if I can pull it out of the deep recesses of the internet. It's I know Simon Pegg is in it. That excites me. Who's directing it?
Brad Bird.
Oh, Brad Bird. We like him a lot.
Who directed The Incredibles
and The Iron Giant.
And The Iron Giant, yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
that's good.
Ratatouille, which isn't really an action movie, but
Ratatouille was the best. For me, it was the best of all of them. But in that vein, Brave, the extended trailer of Brave is out from Pixar, which also looks just stunning.
It looks stunning, but the story, it looks like I'm watching a story I've seen a million times before. But here's the thing I will say about Pixar films is their trailers tend to not be very good and their movies tend to be amazing. So I never take stock in a Pixar trailer because their movies always still manage to wow me.
I really like this trailer, and I think I'm going to like the movie. I'm sorry that you don't like the trailer.
I know. No, it looks gorgeous. It'll be an interesting one. Let me switch topics real quick because I just saw a trailer advertisement. I'm at iTunes movie trailers.
Yeah. And
the little scrolling thing up at the top just told me that Star Wars Episode 1 is being re-released in the third dimension.
I know. I was going to that was going to be the one that was going to be the crowning triumph of my conversation here was Lucas is doing it again. He's pulling a Lucas.
I wonder if there's going to be actually more manipulation now, even more with this one.
I'm sure. I'm sure of it.
I wonder who's going to shoot first in this one.
Oh, it's just...
As you know, a trade blockade is perfectly legal.
Everybody's going to shoot first in this one. Everybody will shoot first just to make up for it. Just shooting at the same time.
I wonder if there will be even more Jar Jar Binks. I hope so.
Now with more Jar Jar, they should be they should be pushing that one. So here's the reason I bring all this up is because tomorrow, actually this weekend, is my birthday.
That's right.
It's on Sunday, and I every year for the last 10 years or so, I take the day off like a holiday. It's like a national holiday. I take the day off.
You should.
Before or after, or the day of, if it's during the week, because in this case, tomorrow is going to be my big celebration day where I take the day off and I'm seeing 2 movies tomorrow. I do this every year. And tomorrow's movies, absolutely frivolous movies. Number 1, at 10 o'clock, I will be seeing The Immortals.
Excellent.
And so I want to make sure I get your take on that. And the second one at 2:30 in the afternoon, after a light lunch, I will be seeing In Time.
I was convinced you were going to see Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1.
Don't. Wow, you're a jerk. No, the thing about that is I actually wonder if I'll see either of these movies that I want to see, because there are, I counted them, 19 starts throughout the day tomorrow of Breaking Dawn. They start every 15 minutes, 19 times throughout the day. They're starting Breaking Dawn. How do they even fit that in?
It's just not enough.
Unbelievable. I don't even know what it's about. Is it even part of
That's a lot of angst.
It's the same people, right? It's the same actors.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And this isn't the Twilight, right? It's a whole new series with the same characters. She just recycled the same.
No, it's one big story. This is the final, this 2-parter is the final chapter where they finally get married so that,
she's a vampire? Is that the thing?
She's not. She's not a vampire. He's a vampire.
Well, I know, but doesn't he make her a vampire at some point?
No, kind of. He gets her pregnant, and her baby is, kind of a little half vampire baby.
Just goth.
And it's going to kill her, and so he has to turn her into a vampire.
So that's
in order so she doesn't die.
That's the dramatic challenge.
That's, I think, what happens in this one, and then I don't really know what's going on in part 2. I only hear about all of this from my wife. She kind of fills me in on what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I wanted to ask you as we move into, the great celebration tomorrow, what your take is. I know you've seen The Immortals, and I don't know if you've seen In Time. And I want to get your take on them. What should I do? I have to look forward to with these films. Am I making a huge mistake?
Well, Immortals is, it's an incredible film to look at. I mean, it's stunning. It's directed by Tarsem Singh, I think is his name, who directed The Cell back in like late 90s or something, early 2000s, with Jennifer Lopez. And that was a really odd film, but again, it was gorgeous to look at. This is a director who knows how to make a film look stunning. I mean, the production design is unreal. The costume design is just amazing. And it's kind of like 300. It's, it's a big action movie, lots of fighting, and just like rippling muscles and scantily clad women. And that's essentially the movie.
Lots of, they do the same kind of underwater stuff that they did, the flowing robes underwater and hair and craziness that they did in, I'm thinking about Around the Cauldron, going to see the three.
Right. It's, I'm trying to remember if there's anything like that. I don't think there's anything quite like that, but there definitely is that.
The super high speed jumping stuff, right?
Yeah, that almost like 2-dimensional video game style fighting where you watch him fight across the screen.
Right.
Just in slow motion killing everybody.
I like that. It's a side scroller.
It is.
In video game parlance.
It's the movie really, for me, it kind of fell apart in the last act. But it's an interesting one. He plays Theseus, and Theseus fights the Minotaur. That's kind of I hear
the Minotaur is pretty good.
The way that they
do the whole labyrinth thing.
They have a labyrinth and they have the Minotaur, but the way that they kind of played with that myth, I thought was actually quite genius. I really enjoyed what they did with it.
All right, then don't tell me that.
I won't.
We're going to have to talk about that later.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to the other In Time. You've seen that one, I assume?
Yeah, I saw that one too. It was a lot of fun. It was an interesting film with Justin Timberlake and what's the girl's name? I can't remember her from the ABBA movie.
Young, she's good.
Yeah,
crying out loud.
And then. But it's about a world in the future where your currency is basically time. It's a really interesting sci-fi movie. I actually really enjoyed the concept. I don't think the film was quite there 100%, but I thought they did a good job with it, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit.
Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda Seyfried.
I like that. I'm going to butcher his name. Cillian Murphy. Killian.
Yep.
C's not supposed to make that sound.
It's like
He's the.
I know, idiot.
Olivia Wilde. I'm pretty crazy for Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, she's great. And the interesting thing about her is she plays Justin Timberlake's mother.
No way.
Yeah, because in the movie...
there's a whole gimmick about time.
Well, everybody stops aging at 25, and because that's all the time you're given. And then after 25, you have to buy and sell your time in order to continue living.
So really rich people...
can live forever.
They can live forever. All right.
Right. Whereas in the slums, everybody's just kind of fighting day to day, trying to make a living.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I like the concept. That's one of the reasons I'm going to see this movie. Was it based on a book or something? Or
I don't think so.
This is original IP, as they call it.
Yeah. Andrew Niccol.
Yeah.
I believe he wrote and directed it. He was the man who brought us Gattaca, which is another very fascinating sci-fi film.
It's one of my top 10 in sci-fi. It's fascinating. I love it.
It is. I really do too. I thought he did an amazing job with it.
Okay, so shall we jump into this movie?
Let's jump in.
7.5, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome to the 7.5 floor of the Merton Plummer Building.
My name is Craig Schwartz, and I have an interview with Dr. Lester.
Please have a seat, Mr. Juarez.
My name is Schwartz.
My name is Schwartz.
Which of these two letters comes first, this one or this one?
The symbol on the left is not a letter, sir. Damn, you're good.
Do you know that I don't even know your name or where you work?
And 50 other lines to get into a girl's pants.
So, honey, you thought any more about us having a baby?
I think that maybe we should just wait and see if this job thing pays off.
There's a tiny door in my office, Maxine, and it takes you inside John Malkovich.
There's no such thing as a hole into somebody's brain.
Yes, there is. You see the world through John Malkovich's eyes? Yes! And then after about 15 minutes...
That's not me! I didn't say that!
You're spit out into a ditch on the side of the New Jersey Turnpike.
It was amazing.
Where the hell are we? We're in Malkovich's subconscious.
Do you think that it's kind of weird that John Malkovich has a portal? I mean, do you think that it might have some sort of significance?
What is going on? Huh?
I discovered that portal.
It's my head!
John Cusack, Cameron Diaz, Catherine Keener, and John Malkovich.
Malkovich!
Being John Malkovich.
Hey, Malkovich, be fast!
Wow.
So being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich. Well, so you're a big fan of this movie.
Yeah, I love this movie. I'm a big fan when I find a film and filmmakers and writers and actors who all put together something that's just so completely unexpected and original. And it really was just a mind-boggling film. And this film came out in a year of really mind-boggling films. It came out in 1999, which for all intents and purposes was an incredible year for films. This was the year of The Matrix and Fight Club and American Beauty, The Green Mile. I mean, to a certain extent, Star Wars Episode 1, that came out that year. Yeah. The Sixth Sense. There's so much stuff that came out that year. Magnolia. I can't remember what else.
American Pie. I know.
American Pie. Yes.
American Pie. Any given Sunday.
Stanley Kubrick's last film, Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a really impressive year for just a lot of strong filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the strong films that came out that year. I mean, I would definitely put it in my top 5 for the year. I think it was just really just one of those mind-boggling films that I saw opening weekend, and I just it floored me. I mean, I walked out just completely having witnessed, a completely original film.
Do you remember why you wanted to see that? I mean, do you remember did you see the trailer? Did you think about Charlie Kaufman or Spike Jonze? I mean, what was it? Do you remember what it was that actually inspired you to see this movie?
I don't specifically. I can't imagine it was Charlie Kaufman because I don't think
he had done.
He hadn't done anything.
No, he had done nothing
like
commercials
and TV shows and stuff. Maybe some commercials too. Yeah, but
I'm sorry. I was thinking about Spike Jonze.
Oh yeah, Spike Jonze, who hadn't done much either.
Right.
And so I don't think it was either of them. I think I had to have seen a trailer for it. This was we saw this at the art house theater in town, Camel View, and I'm sure I saw some other film there and must have seen this trailer there. It was released. It was a limited release, so I can't imagine I saw TV commercials. Gosh, I don't remember what it was that made me want to see this film.
I'm fascinated by that because this is one of those films that you hit it with that limited release. Like it's a movie that you blink and you miss it, and I did. I missed it. I had never seen it. I picked up the Charlie Kaufman vibe with Adaptation, which we're going to do next. But this one I completely skipped and I never went back, and it's just sort of a hole in the wall that I never quite filled. So this week was my first time actually watching this movie. And I almost feel like it's kind of unfair to sit down and pull it apart because I don't feel like I've had quite enough time to digest it.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to you kind of sharing what this thing means.
If I could figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling it's a movie that's going to age really well with me because there's just so many layers to it.
Well, it's a really interesting film. And I think when you look at Charlie Kaufman's films as a whole, this adaptation, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Synecdoche, New York, even to an extent, Human Nature, they're all about, identity and the meaning of life and mortality. And they all have there's an interesting metaphysical sort of thing going on in his films. I don't think that, would have been, something people would have said about him, particularly after just watching this film. Obviously, he wrote it, and it does kind of have that vibe, but I don't think until you'd seen several more films from him, you would have been able to get a sense that that's kind of where his direction as a writer points. He really is kind of exploring what it means to be who you are.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, once you start peeling that back, in this movie in particular, I mean, this is probably the one that deals with that most blatantly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is the one that is almost the most transparent. So walk through, before we start pulling apart kind of the more of the detail, but walk through what the general sort of plot arc is.
Yeah. Well, we've got a puppeteer, Craig Schwartz, played by John Cusack, who is unemployed. He's in a marriage he's not happy in, with a woman, Lotte, played by Cameron Diaz, who I never quite figured out if she just has a lot of pets and runs a pet store, or kind of takes care of the overflow. But whatever it is, she's got animals everywhere.
Not your everyday animals. Not cats.
No, not like cats and dogs.
Parrots and monkeys.
Yes, exactly. And iguanas, right, and all sorts of crazy things.
And they're all in some stage of medical disarray. I mean, they're all bandaged somehow.
Right. They're all needing work.
Right.
So Craig, in order to kind of get out of a rut, gets a job as a filing clerk at a company called Lester Corp, hired by Orson Bean, who plays Dr. Lester. He gets the job because he's so good with his hands as a puppeteer. It just works well for him. So he is natural at being a filing clerk. While at his new job, he meets a coworker, Maxine, who is very standoffish, but he ends up discovering this portal behind a filing cabinet. It's like a little door in the wall, but when he goes through it, it's this long, muddy, dark tunnel that takes him into the mind of John Malkovich, the actor, although it's actually kind of a fake version of John Malkovich. But he's living as John Malkovich for about 15 minutes, and then he gets spit out and dumped in a ditch off the New Jersey Turnpike.
Now we've got to talk about just how weird that is. Right, because you say that and it's like, okay, he's having some sort of a psychotic break, but this movie is, it is not, I'm going to let you finish, but I just want to say it's not a psychological thriller. All right. This movie is as literal as you can get. When he is spit out, he literally appears in midair and falls 30 feet to the ground.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's very fair to call this a fantasy. I mean,
yes,
it's not a fantasy in the Lord of the Rings, realm of fantasies. It's a real world fantasy where, very strange and unexplainable things happen. And somehow that's okay.
Right. Okay. So he spit out on the New Jersey Turnpike.
Right.
And,
so he tells his, this coworker, Maxine, played by the genius Catherine Keener, who, because of this, agrees to partner up with him, and they turn it into a business, basically, the JM Inc., where they basically get people to pay $200 to go be John Malkovich for 15 minutes.
Brilliant.
Which that's a great way to make money. If only I had a portal to someone's mind.
To anyone's mind.
That's right.
Okay, so they have this business. They start charging 200 bones to get 15 minutes in John Malkovich's brain. And it's really John Malkovich with whatever he's doing right now. You appear in his brain and he maybe, you know, I love the bit where he's on the phone and he's ordering a bath mat.
Right. It's very much that way, where it's not about them jumping into him and controlling him and they can go out on, you know, life on the town sort of thing. I mean, they're just in his head, unbeknownst to John Malkovich, and they're really just viewing life through his eyes for those 15 minutes.
Right.
What happens then is Lotte meets Maxine, and they end up kind of getting this little connection, and it's kind of an interesting little connection between the two ladies. And Lotte ends up going into John Malkovich, and she realizes by doing that she's a transgender. And that, you know, she has that great line when she's fighting with Craig, and she says, you know, why do you always, or don't, what does she say? It's like, don't stop me from actualizing myself as a man or something like that. It's a great line. So in the process of discovering that she really wants to be a man while she's in John Malkovich, Maxine pops by and goes on a date with John Malkovich, and she sees Lotte looking through John Malkovich's eyes, and she falls in love with Lotte, but only if Lotte's in Malkovich. So it's, you know, all this complication, it's just genius storytelling. And then in the meantime, Craig realizes what's going on between Lotte and Maxine, and so he imprisons Lotte and he uses Lotte to get Maxine to go on a date with John Malkovich, and then Craig goes into Malkovich, and he ends up, because he's a puppeteer, he is able to take over Malkovich and basically become Malkovich and basically be a puppeteer from inside the body, controlling the man.
Right.
And because of that, he ends up leading a whole new life as John Horatio Malkovich, and pushes him into a new career as a puppeteer and becomes a world-renowned puppeteer doing Swan Lake and just amazing shows.
Reinventing puppeteering for major actors. There's the great bit where lots of cameos.
Yes.
Great bit where Sean Penn says, you know, once I think more actors kind of find their voice, they'll be brave enough to do what Malkovich has done. And everyone will jump into puppeteering.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we'll talk maybe about cameo. I don't know if cameos are even important, but there's my favorite one is Brad Pitt. Where he's on screen for about a second and a half, and it looks like he's about to speak, and then cut away. It's only too good.
I know, that's just genius. That was a great cameo.
Okay, so he is now able to control Malkovich,
and then meanwhile, Lotte, who goes and talks to Dr. Lester, who owned this building where the portal is, discovers that Dr. Lester has actually been, I guess you could say, you know, tracking John Malkovich through his life, because he discovered this portal 90 years ago, and he is actually Captain Merflin, who had jumped into the Dr. Lester body, you know, like 75 years ago or something like that. It has to be
Captain Merton.
Captain Merton, yeah. Right. So he found a way to live forever, basically, by using this portal to jump from body to body, but it has to be on the evening of their 44th birthday. And if they wait after that, then the portal moves to the next body, which is the unborn child of whoever that person was. So John Malkovich's child would be the next portal.
Well, I don't understand. That's one I didn't understand. That's a bit I didn't get.
It's just Yeah,
I know you're not supposed to think
that hard about it. Yeah, it's just one of those funky things. But
it made me think: does it have to be a Malkovich? Does it have to be a Malkovich? Is that the deal? Like whoever the current Malkovich is?
No, it's whoever. Like Malkovich was the seed of, I guess it would have been, of Dr. Merflin, or no, Captain
Merton?
Captain Merton. Thank you. I just can't get the name right. He would have, I guess in the story, he must have been the son or something of Captain Merton or something, because his seed is the next portal. So Dr. Lester, at the end of the film, he and all of his friends jump into Malkovich and become him so they can live forever. But now their next portal is John Malkovich's seed, which is Emily, the daughter that he ends up having with Maxine,
and she becomes a problem because,
well, I don't know if she becomes a problem, but that's going to be the body that Malkovich and now all of his friends will jump into on Emily's 44th birthday. Meanwhile, though, Craig, who, through all of this, he tries to jump back into Malkovich, but unfortunately it's after his 44th birthday. And so he's pushed into the next portal, which is Emily, the unborn child. And if that happens, you're locked into their subconscious and you're unable to do anything but just live the rest of your life.
Until the 44th.
I guess until the 44th.
You're locked until that transition, until they're ripe.
Yeah, but I don't know if he would come back out, or if that's the end of his existence.
Well, I think that's part of the thing you're supposed to be worried about. Like this is as the movie ends, right? I mean, this is the big twist at the end when, we see the two moms. Mm-hmm. And there's that great there's a great bit when the two moms, after sort of they rediscover each other and discover that Maxine was pregnant with Emily, where they have this conversation where they're trying to figure out how to talk about the fact that she was impregnated by Malkovich while Malkovich was playing host to Lotte. And
right.
So it's Lotte's baby somehow.
It's Lottie's baby spiritually.
It's Lottie's spiritual baby. And so they have this great conversation. They fall in love on the side of the road and realize that it may or may not have been a transgender identity crisis, and maybe they're just lesbians.
Right.
And they end up having a what appears to be, in the final scene, a normal sort of nuclear kind of alternative family.
Right.
Weird baggage. But who doesn't have weird baggage? Right?
Lots of interesting stories to tell at the wedding.
And so Emily is now what? She looks 9 or 10?
She's 7 because it's 7 years later.
Oh, yeah. 7 years later, right. So she's 7 years old and she's asking to go swimming. And as the moms are tickling her, saying, "Are you going to throw up? Are you going to throw up?" They stand up and are kind of hugging each other. And Emily, we now cut to the occupied cam, where you get this sort of vignette around. That's the indicator that you are now looking through somebody else's eyes.
Right.
And we hear Schwartz's voice saying, "No, please turn away. I can't watch. She's so beautiful." That kind of a thing. So we now know he's trapped inside of Emily. They set that up.
And unlike Malkovich,
he can't control her.
He can't control her. He's locked in her subconscious, imprisoned, watching forever through her eyes.
Right.
So,
and that's why I thought that once Dr. Lester and pals decide that they need to move on to the next host, they're going to be blocked and they won't be able to live forever. Because he's already in there. Because Dr. Lester says at one point, he says, "We can't jump into Malkovich while Schwartz is in there. He's too powerful."
Yeah, but Schwartz has no power now.
But when she is ripe, are we not to believe he can't take over her too?
I don't think so. I think by going into the vessel after the 44th birthday, he's just immediately shoved into the subconscious, and I don't think he'll ever be ever be unlocked. I don't think he'll be able to ever get out of the subconscious. That's my interpretation of it. It's not so well defined.
It's really not, and I know we're perseverating on a device, but that's I think I don't know if it was intentional, but that's what I find myself asking because, and I think this is part of the genius of this film, that Kaufman set up the universe so well in the script, and Jones executed it so well visually that it feels okay to ask these kinds of nerdy questions.
Yeah.
Right? If they hadn't done it well enough, like we wouldn't have given it a second thought.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we actually care enough about this story and these characters to want to explore the possibilities of where it could be taking us.
Yeah.
So, it's just very well written, very well directed, very well acted, all around a very well put together film.
Cheap movie to make, I guess, by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, Avatar.
Right. What I get, from what I'm looking at, the budget was somewhere around 10 million, ended up making 32 million worldwide in the theatrical release. And what's the story on awards? It got a lot of nominations, but I don't think it won any of the big ones.
Well, not with the Oscars. It did get nominated for Best Director, Spike Jonze. And
Best original screenplay.
Best Original Screenplay, Charlie Kaufman, and Best Supporting Actress, Catherine Keener. And this was also really a kind of, she had done some other things, but this was really where Catherine Keener kind of popped into the spotlight.
It's an interesting movie for her. And I haven't really fleshed this out in my head yet. I like her.
Yeah, I think she's great.
I think she's great. And I never, it's never easy for me to define kind of why I like her, she's very dry as an actress. Like she's very dry. She's dry toast dry. And so you sort of have to work to build a relationship with her on screen. At least I found. I mean, she's really fairly standoffish in this movie when it starts. Her character is that's the nature of her character. It's a very standoffish, very, she kind of knows what she wants. And if she's not interested or doesn't want it, then she completely dismisses it. Mm-hmm. I love it.
She's completely dismissive of Craig all the way up until the point that, he talks to her about this portal and she realizes there's an actual business opportunity there.
What is this? What's your take on this movie as a feminist film?
Well, I haven't really thought of it in that context. I don't know. I mean,
I'll tell you, I think about it because it strikes me that it allows these extremely strong female characters to completely dominate, right? The male roles, even in I think the relationship between Lotte and Craig. Mm-hmm. There's a transformation there. I mean, when the movie opens, we have Craig, who's, in bed, and clearly, Lotte is the breadwinner, and he's, has these excuses about how there's a wintry economic climate and nobody wants puppeteers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious when the economic climate is right for puppeteers.
Right.
And so you can tell it feels like he's taking advantage of her there. And, and she obviously, as her story progresses, she realizes she doesn't actually know kind of who she is. And so her sort of path is to, kind of open up, physically and emotionally and physically, to, this whole new world of, she goes through the transgender, bit, but ends up taking control of her identity in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a major transformation.
Yeah, and it is huge.
And then the same thing with Catherine Keener, who ends up being this sort of dominating businesswoman, And she ends up saying, there's that great bit where both Lotte and Craig try to make out with her on the couch.
Right.
And she says, Craig, I'm just not into you. And Lotte, I'm totally smitten with you, but only when you're John Malkovich.
Right.
And so she is a lesbian who's only interested in men who are occupied by women.
Exactly.
And yet her transformation is to take control of her identity in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Right. You said it in the beginning. It was this whole movie is about these plays on identity. And I think for these women, these female characters, really, taking control of their identity in a like the vehicle of John Malkovich is a way really to exercise sort of an interesting play on feminism, on their feminist sort of strength. That's crazy. I never expected myself to think about that.
No, I didn't expect that to come up, but it actually is kind of interesting the way that they're through their relationship that kind of does develop. And it's about, I think it takes both of the women by surprise that this happens to them. Maxine says, what can I say? I've fallen in love. It's like she never expected it to happen,
right.
Especially in such a strange situation. And same thing with Lotte. She never expected to, that she was transgendered. And I think by the end, I think that they realize that they're more in love with each other than she is in love with being a man, and Maxine is in love with being with Lotte as Malkovich. I think that they finally come to terms with themselves as just being in love with each other.
Right. Right. I think again, that's part of the journey sort of was the destination for them. They discovered who they really were by way of having to deal with, being transgendered for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And then realizing that they woke up, and turns out that wasn't that was a symptom of something bigger.
Yeah. It's like through that, Lotte is able to find her self-worth and grow as a person. And it's actually a very valid point that you bring up. It's pretty interesting.
What I like about it so much is that when you think about it that way, right? I don't know. I don't know who you could say is the real star of this movie, right? This is definitely an ensemble piece, right? You get the first half of the movie is really dominated by John Cusack, and the second half is really dominated by John Malkovich.
Yeah.
But the most interesting character arc, I think, or the shared sort of character arc is Cameron Diaz and Catherine Keener. The way they transition through the whole of the film, is I think probably the most important message.
Well, and that's interesting when you look at kind of the, what the Craig Schwartz, John Malkovich story is about. It's about finding your identity. The whole reason that Craig takes over John Malkovich is because he is obsessed with Maxine, and he can't do it by being himself. He has to be someone else.
Right.
So the whole movie is about identity, and are you going to be yourself, or are you going to be only able to find the happiness that you seek by being somebody else? And for Craig, he goes down a dark path where he finds that, he's so obsessed with Maxine that the only way he can be happy is by being somebody else. Whereas Lotte and Maxine, while that's kind of what they think initially, the only way they can be happy is by, having their relationship through Malkovich. Over the course of the film, they finally learn that they are truly happy just by being themselves, and that's when they fall in love on the side of the highway. And 7 years later, they're still together.
Yeah, and when you look at this is interesting. When you look at how sort of the final destination for each character,
mm-hmm.
Craig is trapped inside of Emily.
Mm-hmm.
John Malkovich is, I have to believe dealing with an insufferable case of multiple personality disorder. The two primary characters that actually end up with any sense of normalcy are, Lotte and Maxine.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It is. It really is. They're able to be themselves and be happy.
Yeah. This was great. The Craig character unravels, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you pull him apart? Like his search for his identity did not fare well.
Well, he's somebody who, he's battling with, I guess in the context of a fantasy film, he is the one who kind of has, kind of these, he's obsessed with his own fantasies of things, his place in the world as a great puppeteer. He's not doing a whole lot to pursue. I mean, he is performing on the street and everything, but he's not anyone big like the guy he mocks at the beginning of the film who's on TV and, who is a great puppeteer. And, he, through the film,
there's that great bit too of him watching the news footage. When does a puppeteer actually get coverage at all? But there's the footage of him doing what was the play? Or
Swan Lake.
Was it Swan Lake off the side of a bridge? Right in the beginning.
That's not. That's the other guy doing that. That's his nemesis.
His nemesis. Yeah. You weren't talking about him. I was thinking about his arch rival saying that when he had that bit of puppetry off the side of a bridge.
Right.
So, the Dance of Despair.
Well, that
was the later one. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
But no, it's just he's just he doesn't have control of his own life. He has this fantasy of what his life should be. He is everything opposite Lotte. He's all about this fantasy life. She's, just more all about the reality, or she ends up, having a life based in the reality and everything. And I think that, to a large extent, by being a puppeteer and by being somebody who has to be controlling things, he ends up, finding that the only way he can live is by controlling things, which obviously, gets him in the end, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, you see the scenes with him living out his fantasies through his puppeteering. He's got, right at the beginning, well, not right at the beginning, but when he's doing the street puppeteering, he has that, the relationship scene between, was it Eloise and Abelard? Mm-hmm. It's this very...
wasn't it? That was that a priest and a
priest and a nun.
And a nun, and, with the
obsessed
child,
with each other. Child
watching as their bodies are undulating in separate rooms, these puppets.
Yeah. But I mean, he's living out his fantasies. He doesn't have this sort of relationship with his own wife,
right.
And then later he after he meets Maxine, what does he do? He goes home, makes a Maxine puppet, and then he acts out their relationship and falling in love and all of that with his puppets. I mean, he's a man who's obsessed with creating, like playing God and dictating his own life through his puppets.
Right. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to turn to the various set pieces of this, of the film, because I think it would be remiss if we didn't talk about the 7.5th floor,
which is in one sense just one of the strangest things to throw into a film. That you're talking about the Merton Mifflin building or whatever it's called, Merton Flemmer building.
It was perfect.
Well, yeah, he goes to work at his new job and it's on the 7.5th floor. The lovely Octavia Spencer, actually, I'm not sure if you caught her, is the
woman in the saying, "I'll get you through."
I'll get you through.
Yeah.
So
that was so great.
And then the whole story behind the 7.5th floor about why it was created, all that. I mean, it's so silly. It's great. But that right there is our first entry, I suppose you could say, into the world of the fantasy of this film. We're now entering a world where somebody would actually build a 7.5 floor. It actually really works well to set all of this up.
That's an interesting point. Talk more about that.
Well, it's anytime you're making a film that has elements that are so crazy, like a portal into John Malkovich's head, and these vessels that these people jump from one to the next over centuries. You have to find a way to infuse your movie with some of that ridiculousness from the start. And by having the 7.5 floor, by having Lotte so obsessed with pets, by having the secretary, the executive liaison, as Dr. Lester tells us, played by Mary Kay Place, who can't understand a single thing that anyone is saying,
which was fantastic.
Yeah,
she gave me such a headache, but every time you see her, it's a little bit of joy.
It's great. Not only is she great, but the way that it's written, the relationship between her and Dr. Lester, so that he is always just like, she's so sweet. She's always sorry if you can't understand me. He takes it all onto himself, assuming that it's him who can't actually talk well.
And then wrap that up with Malkovich once he is now occupied by all of the Dr. Lesters at the end of the movie. He is now married to her.
Right.
And she still can't understand each other.
Right. It's just genius. But no, I mean, that's important. When you're creating a fantasy film, you have to start right from the beginning, and you have to introduce that world so that when all of a sudden a portal pops open and you end up in John Malkovich's head, if you hadn't established the fantasy elements before that, you're going to confuse your audience, and you're going to leave them going, what the heck is going on in this movie? It doesn't make any sense to me. So it was very smart to do that right from the start.
It's sort of balancing the crazy.
Yeah.
If you're not already primed for the crazy, you won't be able to buy into the portal.
Right.
It's almost as if, as soon as he got off that elevator, having never seen the movie, I immediately thought, okay, he's going to get off the elevator and discover that he's in John Malkovich's mind. Like, I was already ready for that.
Ah, okay.
As soon as this weird world shows up where he has to, where not only does he have to walk around and duck, but it was made so much more perfect. Well, two things actually, I think, made it so much more perfect. First of all, that it was totally normal to the, dozens of people that we see actually walking the halls and working there.
All ducking their heads.
All ducking as if it's
hallway.
Totally normal.
Yep.
But the other piece that I thought was interesting, and maybe I just missed it. I don't think there's any definition of what these people are filing.
There's not.
At any point. Like, it's just a company that exists to file things.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
We're never really given a sense as to what the Lester Corp company is actually all about.
I mean, he holds up those two cards in the beginning and he says, which character goes first, this one or that one? And Schwartz looks over and says, well, sir, that one's not actually a letter. Oh, you're good, Schwartz.
He's trying to trick you.
That was great.
Yeah. A great character. Dr. Lester, played by Orson Bean, is just so funny.
He is. He's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've... what else do we need to cover on this one? This is interesting. So cameos. Talk about the cameo. Charlie Sheen wasn't a cameo. He was a bit player.
Playing himself, just like John Malkovich. He's playing John Malkovich's old buddy,
right.
Charlie Sheen, or the Machine. Yep, which is just great.
What did he call Malkovich at the end?
What did he call him? Malcatraz.
Malcatraz. Yeah, that's good.
Yep. That's great. Spike Jonze, the director, actually has a tiny bit, although I still haven't seen him, but Derek Mantini, the puppeteer we were talking about at the beginning, Spike Jonze apparently plays his assistant. We mentioned Brad Pitt already.
David Fincher.
David Fincher he plays a like a critic.
A critic for the I thought was it for the LA what was it, the LA Arts and Culture thing, or the American Arts and Culture?
Yeah, in the documentary,
in the movie at the end,
playing a critic talking about how great Malkovich is.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who else I remember seeing that. I think that there's some other ones, but I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see, Winona Ryder, Andy Dick.
Yeah, that's right. They're like in the audience in the play scene or something, right?
Hanson is in the audience.
Well, there you go.
So you gotta look.
We
close.
should have mentioned them first.
You gotta look close. Let's see. So the sort of in closing. I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything else big on this movie?
Well, this is one of those scripts that I think had been floating around Hollywood for a little while. It's one of those scripts that a writer writes that's so out there. I don't know if I think that the average studio exec would look at it and go, well, it's great, but I have no idea what to do with it. And I think, I remember reading an article, in the late 90s where they listed like the best unproduced screenplays, and this was on that list. And because it is, I mean, it's a very strange film, and I think a lot of people just don't get it, especially if you're reading it. They're like, what? They're in a portal?
Yeah.
And same thing with his other films. He ended up doing, what did he do with, he did adaptation with Spike Jonze again.
Right.
So he's done a couple with Spike Jonze and a couple with Michel Gondry. We'll talk about them as we do some of the other films. But, this one, because it was his first film, he had done some TV, he had done some other things, but this was kind of one of those weird scripts that people were hesitant to do. And I'm not sure how, but somehow I guess Charlie Kaufman ended up getting paired up with, what's his name? Michael Stipe, who I think was one of the producers on this.
He was, and I think that was through Francis Ford Coppola. Kaufman sent the script to Coppola, who sent it to Spike Jonze, his then son-in-law, and
right.
And Jones went to Single Cell Pictures, which is
to get it made.
Yeah.
So, and even the actors. I mean, actors love being in films like this. I mean, John Cusack, as it says here, he had only read the script after he asked his agent to give him the craziest, most unproducible script you could find. And this is what his agent had given him, and he auditioned and got the part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the sort of film that actors, I think, love to be in because they really get meaty roles. I mean, even small bits, you get just the fantastic characters to play.
Well, that's the truth. This is one of those films that really, I think, tested these actors. I mean, you can feel that they were, even Malkovich, who you think of as just sort of, unstoppable.
And the great thing about him is, Charlie Kaufman actually wrote this with John Malkovich always in it. And the idea was, that was who he wrote it in mind for. And then, never expecting that they'd actually get him, they figured that they would get whichever actor they could get to play that role. But John Malkovich looked at it and actually enjoyed it. And thank God, because, he was the perfect actor to be in it.
I wonder if that, I don't know. I mean, now that I've seen the movie, I mean, it is really well executed, and he treats it, you can tell he treats it with such fidelity. It wasn't a vehicle just because his name is in the title.
Right.
Talk about top billing.
Yeah. Right.
But what I found really interesting about this was this bit, even before the script was fleshed out, Kaufman's idea of the film was, as he says, it was a story about a man who falls in love with someone who is not his wife.
Yeah. And if that doesn't sound like the most standard Hollywood story you could hear.
Right?
Yeah.
It's horrifying. It's like, it's a train wreck. Why would I want to see a movie like that? I've seen that movie before a lot.
Yeah. Right.
And this one is one I would recommend to others. I mean, this one is one that is executed so well and so cleverly that I want to watch it again. I want to watch it again and again and pull it apart. I haven't watched it a second time all the way through. I watched it all the way through, and then I watched bits of it again. But it's terrific. It's particularly a standout when Malkovich is playing Schwartz.
Yeah,
the last half of the movie,
good job. Yeah.
He's fantastic. When he's the scene where he's taking the kidnapping call, he is panicked and terrified and still perfectly goofy.
Yeah,
He does great.
He does a great job portraying Schwartz, controlling him. Talk about an acting bit, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
It is just unreal.
So I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, next week we're doing Adaptation.
That's a good film. That definitely fits into the movies we like principle.
Yes, 100%.
I think this one does too. I'm glad you made me do this one.
Yeah, I'm glad we started with it. It was a nice little one to jump into, and then we'll do this, and we'll skip Human Nature. We'll do Adaptation. We'll skip Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and then we'll do Eternal Sunshine.
I'm not sure I want to skip Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Is that not on your list? You don't like that movie?
No, we could. No, I guess I said that thinking that we'd only talked about those three, but we could do it. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
I know Charlie Kaufman wasn't pleased with the process of that one, but I'm happy to talk about it.
We did Temple of Doom.
Hey. How about Crystal Skull? You say that one.
I can't say that because I think I swayed you. I think that's aging better for you. I'm going to come back to you in a year and see how you feel about that movie in hindsight.
I still won't like it, but I will like it.
You'll only not like it because I'm the one saying it. And I'm okay with you being bitter and petty. That's right. I said it.
Ouch. Come on.
Hey.
You know I'm a bitter, petty man.
Yeah.
That's nothing new.
This was good, man. Thanks for walking me through it.
Hey, you bet. We will we'll talk next week.
We'll do it again.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete, and to be honest, it's a lot of work too, but it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page where we've listed every movie that we've talked about paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?